Hello everyone, welcome to another live video. I've been doing some traveling and I'm in a different city now. As you can see, I checked into this house yesterday. Got an interesting bar area here. Let's sit down, have a drink, talk about what you've been dealing with. But yeah, I haven't been drinking for about 7-8 years now. I've been so focused on my work, making videos every day, traveling, exploring, sharing it all with you on my Instagram. So I haven't had any time for drinking or partying, just too busy with the work. But yeah, it's quite a quiet, peaceful place here where I can just sit down and do some recording, editing. And that's what I've been doing all day today. It's now 2 p.m. here. I was already awake by 6:30 a.m. Got up and got started on the work. Just been sitting here on my laptop, getting it all done. Got a video that should be up by tomorrow on gang stalking and color coding. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. But yeah, hit the thumbs up button. Let's work with the algorithm and get into this message. Talking about when the narcissist realizes you'll never come back. Because this is a very interesting one. And we're going to be speaking specifically about the disorder here, narcissistic personality disorder. Not just people with narcissistic traits. And you're going to realize very quickly that a lot of other creators, they really don't understand this disorder. For the majority of narcissists who actually are not even self-aware. Because here's the thing. Over time, when you were dealing with this narcissist, maybe living with them, the abuse became normal. So they were no longer looking at it as though they were doing anything wrong. They weren't thinking about it in that way. Because you didn't enforce consequences. Maybe you weren't confronting them on it. So it became normalized over time. They settled in with you. They became comfortable. You weren't calling them out in it. Or you weren't leaving. You were still there. So there was nothing to send them panicking. There was no alarm going off, revealing to them that they were doing something wrong. And so they kept going with it. It just became normalized to them. They weren't really experiencing any anxiety over it because they saw that you were adjusting to it. You became comfortable with it. It became your new normal. And that's how when you finally leave, it's so shocking because it's like, you can't believe that you were in it. You were around that type of person all of that time because it became normal to you as well. And it has to become normal to you, just as it is normal to them. And the only time that it's really not feeling normal for them is when you challenge them, call them out in it, or when you just leave and then it leaves them wondering what went wrong. This is really what's going on when you're dealing with someone with a narcissistic personality disorder. But even then, as we know, they don't want to accept it. They don't want to accept that it is them. And so even when you don't believe in it, when you see through it, when you call them out on their behaviors, they've got to have other sources. They've got to have enablers, flying monkeys, to support their delusion and tell them that there's nothing wrong with how they are. And of course, they manage to find ways to justify the abuse based on how they think you've treated them. Because if you tolerate it, if you don't see anything wrong, then they don't think there's anything wrong. They just see it as though it's like a bad smell that you've gotten used to. Because this is what many of us are like. We look at ourselves, we blame ourselves, rather than seeing it as though it's something that they are doing. We're so quick to check ourselves first. And of course, narcissists are very defensive. So even if you do call them out on something, they're so quick to just project it onto you. And that's how you end up changing everything about yourself, pulling your personality inside out in an effort to please them. But no matter what you do, it's never good enough. It never fixes it, because the problem is them and not you. They are the ones who are abusive, manipulative, deceptive. But this is it, when you leave, they can't comprehend it. They don't understand. They don't get it. They have to see themselves as perfect. And of course, they got around you and you accepted them, you tolerated it. So they're not seeing it as though they did anything wrong. And even when you try and tell them, when you try and explain it to them, they're not listening to any of that. All they're doing is trying to find things wrong with you. Anything. That's why they're constantly nitpicking you, fault finding, discrediting your character, everything. They're not ever looking at themselves. They're predators. So they're constantly scanning you for something to be wrong, because it can't ever be them. And this is how they gradually train you to become comfortable around them and with their behaviors. It's like the boiling frog syndrome. So when you leave, it doesn't make any sense to them. They can't figure it out. They've just got to come up with this narrative that you are against them. You are their enemy. You trick them because they thought they were going to be getting something. And now you've lost with everything that you are, with the value that you have, which they felt like was rightfully theirs. So they create this narrative now that you are the abuser, you are the narcissist, you are the one who cheated them. They call you the abuser. They just flip it around on you because rejection feels like an attack to them. It feels like an attack on their character. Because to them, it's like you're telling them that they're not good enough, that they're unworthy of you, they're irrelevant. Something is wrong with them. And of course they can't accept that. They have to see themselves as perfect because they have an arrested emotional development. So they have retained this black and white mentality where a person can only be either perfect or flawed. And they are not going to see themselves as flawed. Especially since all of that time, they thought you were fine with it. They thought you were comfortable. And of course, when things started to go wrong, they blamed you and you accepted it. You agreed with them. Even if it was just subconsciously, you played along with it. You tried to be better. You tried to do more. All of this just reinforced their delusional narrative in their minds. So when you leave, it's like a puzzle that they can't solve. And yet we wonder why many of them get obsessed and start stalking us. In some ways, you could argue that they're looking for answers, but really, I would say they are just looking for things to reinforce their false narrative, to reinforce their delusion. They don't care about the truth. They're not looking for truth. They're looking for something that's going to make them feel better. Something that's going to feed their ego, make them feel important, make them feel desirable, as though you're missing them, you're longing and yearning for them, you're not happy, you're not doing good without them, or even if you are, even if it seems like you are, it's fake, it's manipulation, or it's because you cheated them, and now they're the victim and you owe them. Now they've got to sabotage you, and it's justified for them to punish you. And then they try to create these puzzles for you. They start flaunting the new supply. They act like they're doing good without you, or they're still playing the victim. They're trying to get what they believe is rightfully theirs from you. Or they're doing both a lot of times. But yeah, they create all of these games, mysteries, puzzles to try and pull you back in. And really just to project this onto you, what they are already going through, because they cannot make sense of the rejection. They just can't understand it. But what they do know deep down is that they do feel unworthy, inadequate, irrelevant, not good enough for you. But they don't want to accept it. They have to see that as an attack, a personal attack on their character. You are discrediting them. You are ruining their name. How dare you? That's how they have to see it. So you see, all of these things are going on. And yet many of us, we think that it is deliberate. But what you don't understand is that many of them, they actually believe it. They believe in their own delusions, their own narratives. Yes, deep down they are aware of the truth, but they push it down, they bury it. They cannot accept it. Deep down they know that it is them, they know that they are the problem. That is what drives them to do these things. They're shame-based people who are doing everything they can to avoid reflecting on their shame. So that's really what it is. But on the surface, they're doing everything they can to not be aware of it. And this is how it gets so confusing. This is how they justify it. Because it's either you or them, and they do not want to feel flawed. So they've got to put it onto you. They've got to blame you for it. You see a lot of this, it's like miscommunication. Remember, they have a lack of empathy. They're self-absorbed. And let's not forget, many of us, we begin to lack empathy. We become more self-absorbed as victims because we're in a self-protective mode. So we're trying to make sense of it as well. We can't understand why they would do this to us and how they were treating us that way all of that time without realizing that we're giving out these signals, we're agreeing with it. And by us doing that, we are getting a sense of safety for ourselves as well. We feel like we're safer by going along with it. At least there's some form of agreement, of communication there, rather than us not being on the same page. And of course, also, they trained us to be that way because if we went against it, then we were in danger. Then they got angry. And they started projecting onto us, insulting us, blaming us. So all of this is going on in these dynamics. And it's really crazy, when you think about it. We think that in this world, people understand each other. Many people actually don't. This is why there's so many disagreements. There's so much conflict. Even in this day and age, it's very difficult, for two people to be on the same page and understand each other. Initially, everything was fine. When you were in the honeymoon phase, the love bombing, there was no issue with them. They had no issue with you. Because when it's short term, when it's superficial, it's just all about fun. There's no real responsibility or commitment. No real duties that have to be performed. But as you go deeper into it, that's when more and more problems begin to come up. You could be on good terms with someone, but then when you start living with them over many weeks, months, especially years, you start to have a lot of arguments with them. Or if you don't, then there's just a lack of awareness. There's a lot of neglect. And then you could make a new friend. Someone else could come into this situation. And then they're seeing it and it looks very weird to them. It's like, why are you always so quiet together? Why don't you talk, really? Why don't you sit down together when you're having dinner? And that can happen a lot of times. It's just the lack of awareness of it. It's just becoming normalized to you. And it's like for a long time, you may not have even realized that you were in a toxic, dysfunctional relationship. And this is it, we're not perfect either. We may have been doing things for a very long time without realizing how toxic it was. So you can see, we can often have a great deal of disconnection between ourselves and other people, as other people can between themselves and us. And we can also have this conflict within ourselves too. Like we're not really fully connected to ourselves. We lack awareness, self-awareness. This can happen a lot. This happens to everyone. And especially when you're dealing with someone who has a disorder. Because people with disorders typically lack self-awareness. And they are disconnected from themselves. As well as many other traits, such as a lack of empathy. Exploitative. So yeah, all of this is going on. No wonder there's problems. But a lot of times the abuse, they're in denial about it. They get you to become comfortable with it. So then they don't have to think that they're doing anything wrong. Because honestly, most narcissists, they don't want to think that they're being bad or doing anything wrong. They want to disconnect from themselves. They want to escape. Now, when you're bringing it to them, you're confronting them, it's making them feel small. They take it as an attack on their character. And they feel a lot of pressure, so then they just kind of let it out. It's like, in their minds, you're pressurizing me now. So they just put it onto you. They just intimidate you. And sometimes they will just come out and say, yeah, I did it to you. How do you feel about it now? Now you're suffering. They'll just direct an insult at you. And they'll just tell you that you deserved it. You see, they're always looking for excuses. They're always looking for ways to justify it. It's never something where it's like they did something wrong and now they have to be better. Now they have to correct it. and they're actually going to take the steps to do it because they're comfortable with it, with their disorder. It gets them what they want. It doesn't require too much effort. They don't have to reflect on their pain or their trauma. And that's really how they want it to be. And a lot of it is really neglect. Just neglecting themselves to the point where they become disconnected. But many of them, they are asleep. They don't fully know that what they're doing is wrong. They do not want to feel like it's wrong. They don't want to feel like a bad person. What they do know is that it makes them feel good, but it doesn't feel good when they have that awareness that what they're doing is wrong. So they bury it, they push it down. And anyone who confronts them or challenges them on it also becomes a threat to how they see themselves. And so to manage that threat, they then blame you. They discredit you. Some of them will try to destroy you for that. Even though deep down they know that it is them. They know that they are the problem. They just do not want to accept it. They do not want to feel that pain and trauma. It's quite complicated, but this is what is really going on in these dynamics. It's not always so much that you just have this vicious animal who is out to destroy you, although sometimes that can be the case. If you're dealing with a malignant narcissist, a sociopath, a psychopath. But if we are just talking about the standard narcissistic personality disorder, this is how they operate. This is what they're trying to do. And it's all because of their denial. It's because they do not want to accept the truth about themselves. Most of them are not aware of it. They do not want to be aware of it. They push it down into their subconscious. Because if they were to accept the truth about it, that who they are, what they've been doing, their behaviors, it's bad, it's wrong, it makes them horrible people, and they can't put it on to you, they would feel so much shame, and they would probably just break down and cry. That's probably what they would do. Some of them might even try to take their own lives. And now you may be wondering, why don't they do that? Well, it's because they get the validation. They're getting the supply from you or from somewhere else. When they don't get it from you and when they really feel the pressure coming on, that's why they smear you. That's why they line up a new source of supply. When they start to feel the pressure as though they're about to be confronted, exposed, abandoned. So they're still getting this validation elsewhere. They're still getting control, a sense of superiority, even if it is just by them playing the victim. It still makes them feel like they're a better person than you. And then that's how they manage to evade it. But this is what they're running from. They don't really know you at all. They don't really care to know you. All they're trying to do is avoid reflecting on their own trauma, their own shame. And that's all that they're ever doing in any moment. Because it's constantly coming up. It's a part of them. And they can't rid themselves of it. So every moment of their lives is just a distraction. It's just escapism. Let me know if you're with me on this. But this is the truth about narcissistic personality disorder. For most of them who aren't self-aware or aren't fully malignant. Matt Smith says, stuffing those emotions down like that plants seeds that come back later, and they take it out on the new supply. Endless cycle. That's it. That's how they end up devaluing the new supply. And then they come back, re-idealize you, and they devalue you again. It's just an endless cycle with them. Let me know if you have any questions. Because for many of you, this may be a lot to take in. If you have been watching videos by other creators about narcissists, you may be very confused, thinking that all narcissists, they're fully aware of what they're doing. And yeah, they are, to some degree. They deep down, they do know, but they don't want to know, so they bury it down and choose to live their lives in denial. It's all a defense where they blame you, and they will just do anything to destroy you so that they don't have to reflect on that. So they're constantly pushing it away. And you will see it when you confront them. You can see it in their eyes that they do know, but they just do not want to know. Matt Smith says, empaths stuff down emotions too, just to keep the peace. Yeah, that's exactly right. We do it too. As I explained, that's exactly what we do when we're with them. We make ourselves become comfortable with the abuse because we want them to feel comfortable. We're walking on eggshells because we've been conditioned to operate in that way since our childhood. So essentially, we abandon ourselves for another person. We choose them over ourselves. Naimara Tinirello says, I always thought narcissists loved themselves. But by watching these videos, I now realize they actually hate themselves. That's right. Narcissism is self-hatred. It is not self-love. This is why they wear masks, they operate with false characters. It's because they hate the real part of who they are. They get you to validate this false character, but they can't sustain it. They can't fulfill everything that they promised, everything they made you believe in. And then they realize, there's a problem. Now they have a black or white mentality. A person is either perfect or flawed. They do not want to see themselves as all flawed. It's the whole point of why they use the false character and why they manipulated you to get your supply. Is because they were running away from that. And think about it, they also idealized you. They thought you're this person who's going to make them feel better. They saw you as being above them from the beginning. So the last thing they want is for you to do that to them. But yeah, it could be really sad, when you realize this truth, because, many of you may want to see them as just these heartless monsters. The truth is, many of them, that's really not what they are. They have mental illnesses. They're really just not in reality with us. They're in a different world that protects them. Very different to sociopaths or psychopaths. This is why, you struggle to communicate with them, to have a conversation, and just being around them for long periods of time, you can't even communicate properly after that. It affects how you speak. It can give you schizophrenic traits from hearing their word salad all the time, things that don't make sense, just their emotions. It can erode all of your self-esteem, your entire identity. Because that's just it. You are communicating with a crazy person who is not in reality with you and who is pulling you into their delusional world that makes them feel better about themselves. Trism says, so they choose the fantasy over the relationship, which essentially is how they fool themselves. I've said it before, in every relationship, they have the opportunity. Do they choose the source of supply or the false self? And no narcissist is going to choose their supply over the false self. Because think about it, what would be the point? The whole point of the supply is to fuel the false self. So why are they going to choose the supply first? This is why everyone is just replaceable, expendable to the narcissist. The false self is always the priority. Remember, they even chose the false self over themselves. So why would they ever choose you over the false self? Of course, they're never going to do that. And this is it every time, whenever you're devalued by a narcissist, ghosted, discarded, smeared, whatever, it's all just coming back to the same thing. They are choosing the false self over you. That's what it means. That's what it always means. So they're choosing to deny their own self-hatred and just how much they can't stand themselves and don't want anything to do with themselves. They're choosing that over self-reflecting and going within and accepting who they really are, their authentic self. As I always say, they're not running from you. They're running from that true reflection of themselves that they do not like. Because that's just it, when someone says that something is wrong, you've done something wrong, you hurt them, you mistreated them. What do we do as authentic empaths? We're running to them to help, to know what's going on, to know what we've done, to resolve it. The narcissist is running away, abandoning themselves. But this is the problem, though, with narcissists, is that a lot of times we weren't doing anything wrong. We tolerated too much. And so by us going to them and accepting the blame for their mistakes, we are losing parts of ourselves. That's how that happens. Gabby M says, I start dropping things once he starts to speak to me. I could be cooking and I flinch. Yeah, you will find that, they provoke fear into their victims. That's how they control you. So you find that you're always walking on eggshells, you're always on edge. You're always afraid not to offend or upset them. You self-censor. You can't be yourself around them. Being yourself around a narcissist puts you in danger. Because for you to be your authentic self, you have to expose them. You can't just lie about it or deny it. But yeah, it's a part of our evolution. We're meant to fear these people. That's what helps us to survive. The George says LEDs in a hotel room. That's cool. Actually, this time I am in a house. I rented a house here for 1 week. It's just a small house with 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. But it's a bit more space for me to walk around and sit on the couch and edit my videos. And this bar here. But I don't drink. I haven't drank alcohol for about 8 years. Valerie Vice says, I don't think it's choice, it's instinct. That's right, it's instinctual to them, to most of them. Of course, those who are more self-aware or sociopathic, then it is more calculated, premeditated. But with just your standard narcissist, with the disorder, it's just like how they need air to breathe, or how they have to eat. That's really what it's like for them. Even when they're going out and they are discrediting you, sabotaging you, everything, it's all just for their own survival. And that's why they abandon themselves. That's why they live a lie, because they don't believe that they're good enough to survive by being who they really are. So that's how that happened. And yeah, it's really sad when you think about it, but this is how it is. This is really how it is. But yeah, they keep making that choice to continue being this way. And it's because they're very fragile, they're very weak. They don't believe that they can survive any other way. And that's why some narcissists, they will just commit suicide. If they ever feel exposed, rejected, and there's no way for them to get back in, they're isolated, they just can't survive on their own. And that's why you'll find many narcissists, they have lots of people around them, enablers, fly monkeys, supports. They're master manipulators for that reason. Give it a thumbs up if it's helpful so far. But yeah, it's a very difficult thing to accept, this being the truth of everything. Because you may want to see them as these monsters. And really, it's kind of like there's just nothing there. It's like a program, it's like a robot. It's like they're not even human. And they're just doing anything they can to survive. That's really what it is. So it's not always that they're just planning this all out and they just want to destroy you. It's more about their own emotional survival and how they see themselves. That's really what it is, but you don't see that other side to it. But if you look back, it makes sense, how they idealized you. They viewed you as perfect. They were obsessed with you. But then it became a battle of egos. You made them feel unimportant just by you being you, because you were the real deal. And they were just fakes. They were just putting on an act. And that's why they get angry. That's why they rage, because you're challenging them then. And they can't perform for you. They can't be who you wanted them to be and who they made you believe they were. They can't be that, because that's not even them. So it's all about themselves. Remember, they're self-absorbed. It's all about how they see themselves. Thanks for the donation, Jennifer Flesh. And yeah, nothing you do is ever going to help them. They're always going to be that way. They're never going to be able to raise their consciousness and see what they're doing. They're never going to be better. The best thing you can do is go no contact and just avoid them, if it's safe for you to do so. I see there's a lot of people talking about the same thing here. Talking about how their other selves died. And Valerie Weiss, Chris, is the feeling of mourning former self growth. So I can see quite a few people are experiencing this, talking about this. Mourning your former self, I would say, that is growth. Because your former self, you were unaware. This is what got you into trouble with a narcissist. It's what led to you being exploited. So, yeah, you were growing, you were evolving. But what's really going to make you evolve is more, once you've left the narcissist, once you spend some time to yourself, that's when you're going to grow. Don't ever let them brainwash you or make you think that you are growing by being around them. You're never going to be the better version of yourself from enduring their abuse. You have to get away from them first, far away from them. Have plenty of time to yourself. This could take months, years even. And then you're going to start to feel more like yourself again. You're not going to feel like yourself when you're around them. You're experiencing trauma. So, it's very important to go no contact and focus on your healing. Then you will experience the growth. So that person you were before, where you were once full of life, yes, you can get back to being that person again. It will come back. It's just going to take time. And you need to know that you are separate from the narcissist, and then you stop reacting to them all the time. Instead of being outwardly focused, reacting to them, you start reacting to yourself again. So you operate from the inward out. When you're dealing with a narcissist, they want you to operate from the outwards in. And why do they want that? It's because it gives them control. And also, that's exactly what they do. Narcissists, they function from stimuli they get from the outside because they have nothing within themselves. All they have is a void, so they're only reacting to things. And that's how they create their false self, everything. Everything they do is based on the outside, from what they've seen other people say or do. And that's what they trained you to be that way. And actually it frustrates them, when they see you generating things from within, doing something they can't. Initially they're drawn to it, and they want what you're creating for themselves. But then they turn against it, they can't stand it. They try to destroy that in you because they can't do it. I do apologize for all the loud noise out there. But if you're a regular viewer, you will know that it does follow me wherever I go. All of the loud dogs barking and people talking loudly. It's very difficult to ever find a quiet space. Always taking care of other people's families and Matt Smith says, every relationship has effects on your future self. I say this as a reformed narcissist who had to face facts. I own every selfish choice I ever made. It was frightening but necessary. Exactly, everything is going to change you in some sort of way. Everything, every person you talk to, every experience you have, it's going to affect you. But it should be in a way where you are making a conscious choice yourself to learn from it, instead of it just being something that's happening to you. As an example, it's kind of like, you do something that harms you. You don't live the rest of your life in fear of it, where you're always on edge, worrying about it happening again. What's better is that you learn from it, so you have this knowledge, and then you could just use that to manage yourself better the next time and avoid it. Now that's how we want to live. That's a much healthier way to be. It's where we consciously learn from things instead of it just happening to us. Because that's what happens with narcissists, is that it happens to us. And that's not really us. Who we are is what we generate from within. Not things that are happening to us that we can't control. That's got nothing to do with who we are. Gabby M says they aren't human. He knows exactly what he did to me. And he gaslights me even when I remind him of how cruel he is. Yeah, that's it. I mean, narcissists, although we do say gaslighting, it's not so much that they're gaslighting you. They're actually gaslighting themselves because they're in denial. Deep down, they do know, you are right. They have some awareness at some level. And that's what drives them to gaslight you. But really, they're gaslighting themselves. And you're really just a mirror, and you're reflecting back to him who he really is. And he's trying to distort the reflection so that he sees himself as something else. Gabby M says, I'm at that point where I don't show anything. And he says, am I making you mad? Are you mad? It's too early to fight. And I'm like, are you serious? I said nothing, I'm neutral. Him, neutral is bad. This is what they're like, you know. I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just ridiculous, isn't it? You know, just reading that, it's because I can relate to it as well in my own experiences. You know, they're really that stunted emotionally, that childish, immature. You know, they lack emotional intelligence. So, you know, they do come out with these things where they just randomly ask you, you know, you could just be silent, you know, you're just avoiding the harm because they blow up all the time. But yeah, they will come out and ask you, are you mad? Because they can't read into your emotions. They lack empathy. They lack emotional intelligence. So they're trying to figure you out. You know, they want you to tell them. And also it's kind of a baiting tactic. You know, it's like they're trying to tell you how to feel, maybe a projection of how they feel. You know, they want you to be mad. You know, they want to feel like they matter, like they have the power to anger you. Then it means that they are relevant and that you believe in the false character. But yeah, also, you know, everything is it's just so basic with them. It's like, you know, this is bad, this is good, and like with their emotions, it's just so childish, so childlike. Like you can tell they just lack emotional intelligence. They're disconnected from their emotions. Like they'll just say something so like simple, where it's like, are you sad? Or I'm sad now. And it's like dealing with a child who has only just been taught about emotion. And then you can't get them to expand in it. You can't get them to say, okay, but why are you sad? Or why should I be sad or angry now? They can never connect the dots. You know, they really just lack reasoning skills. They lack emotional intelligence. And it's because they have an arrested emotional development. And that's just it. You know, you have to deal with them like you're dealing with a child. And that's what I've learned to do a lot of times, is to kind of treat them like a child. And you have to kind of like talk in like a sweet parental voice, and just respond to them and just say, no, you're not making me mad. It's okay, don't worry. or if they say that they're sad now, or they ask you, are you sad? You just have to respond, oh, you're sad. Let me make you feel better. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. And you don't go into detail about it, about why they're sad. You don't continue that conversation. And you don't talk about why you're sad. You don't tell them that they've done something or they've hurt you. Because, you know, their little fragile minds can't process any of that. You keep it basic, simple. So you can see, you know, there's some pressure building inside of them. They're experiencing something. They feel sad or they feel confused about how you feel because they can't read into you. They lack empathy, emotional intelligence. They just lack the emotional capacity. So you just keep it simple, basic. You just say, you just validate their emotions. Okay, you're sad. Do you want to talk about it? What's making you sad? What have I done now? What's the problem? Or they ask you, are you sad? Are you angry? If you say no, it's going to become a problem. If you say that you're neutral, like you said, they're going to say neutral is bad. Because you have to be angry now. You have to be sad so that they can feel like they matter. You see how it is? This is what it's like. This is what narcissists are like. And not just narcissists, just anyone in the cluster B, you know, borderline, histrionic. Many of the traits, the disorders, the comorbid. 92 live viewers, give it a thumbs up if it's good for you so far. But yeah, they just got to get something out of you. They got to have their reactions. Remember, these are people who are emotionally stunted at the age of a child. And so they need mummy, they need daddy. You know, give me the validation, the attention, the reactions. It's what makes them feel alive, like they exist, like they matter. God, it's crazy out here. There's like cars, everything pulling up, and see, there's always like people just park outside and all these people come in. It's the same thing wherever I go, wherever I stay. It's always like this. And it's never that I'm in like, I'm not like in a big place, so I'm in like the center of everything. Like as an example here, I'm just in some small corner of this huge estate of, there must be hundreds of houses here. It's like a maze. As you can see, on every other street, there's just no one there. They're all right here outside the door. Same thing if I stay in a condo or a hotel. Everyone wants to be close to me to just kind of like feed off my energy, especially when I'm doing a live video. That they really want to get close because they know, you know, I'm expressing myself. I'm talking, of course, you know. When I'm looking around and I'm talking, this energy is being transferred to you. So this is what they do. But yeah, you got to look at these people like they are children, because psychologically they are still. They're children who cannot take care of themselves. They need you to pacify them, appease them, feed them, burp them, change their nappies, everything. Play with them, keep them entertained, amused. This is what they need from you. This is what they need. This is exactly what it's like, you know. They pull you in and they trick you into thinking that you're dealing with a fully grown adult. Actually, you're dealing with an unruly, undisciplined child who can't take care of themselves and can't manage their own emotions, who is stuck in an adult's body. So, you know, the body is, the body and the face is aged. It's just, in their maturity and emotionally, they're still stunted. So essentially, it's like you get the worst of both worlds there. I mean, you know, that's really what it's like. And, you know, they just try and trick you into thinking that they're independent and they have value to bring to you. They can make you happy, they can make your life better. When really, no, they're coming to you because they can't take care of themselves. And even when they're playing these games with you and they're giving you the silent treatment, devaluing you, ghosting you, it's still because they're a child stuck in an adult's body. And by doing that, playing this game with you, it's getting your attention. And you're feeding them emotionally. It's still the same thing. whether they are anxious or avoidant. Either way, it's still just a big baby who needs your attention. What they won't do is have a secure attachment where, the reasoning is involved. Emotional maturity, that's what you're not going to get from them. There's always going to be all of these games being played because they're immature, they're childish. They're not real, fully grown adults. But this is it, sometimes, they come to you, they play the victim, and you can see they're going through something. And you think, it's just a person, and I think I like them, I'm attracted to them, I can take this on, I can take care of them. You think that at first, and it is worse than taking care of a baby or a child. That's what you soon realize, that you can't take care of them. And yeah, it's like we wonder, why do they have so many sources of supply? Because one person could never be enough for them. There's no way that any one person could take care of a narcissist, someone who's self-absorbed, whether it's emotionally, financially, even sexually sometimes. You're never going to be enough for them. Not because you're not enough as a person, but because they're not enough for themselves. And they're not trying to be either. Navpreet says, I hate the enablers and flying monkeys more than the narcissist. That's it, the enablers and flying monkeys, they are the real problem. That's the truth about it, is that they feed into this delusion, this disorder. The narcissist could not continue without people going along with it, believing in it. That's the truth about it. The enablers and flying monkeys, they greatly outnumber the narcissist. And they really have more power. They really do, because it's the numbers of people. So who's really the evil one? Is it really the narcissist, or is it more the enablers and flying monkeys? I would say yes, it is. It is more the enablers and flying monkeys. But the narcissist is delusional, and they behave the way that they do. But it's only because they know that they can. It's because they know they can get away with it. So if they knew they couldn't get away with it, they would change their behavior very quickly. If they knew that there were consequences. So in many ways, they're like spoiled brats. That's really what they are. But this is it, what should be done? It should be confronted, it should be exposed. Their behaviors should be managed, not tolerated. And they should be dealt with professionally. So, it's not just that you just expose them, or you just crucify them. We don't go from one extreme to the other. No, we manage them professionally and in a clinical setting. So we set objectives, goals, how are we going to manage this disorder? We can't cure it, so what do we do to manage them? But this is what you'll find, is that it's not just the narcissist. Many people in the world today suffer from an arrested emotional development. Many people are very childish, very immature. And they're over-emotional. They're not thinking logically, rationally about how we should professionally deal with a situation. They let their emotions get the better of them, and it just builds resentment. It makes people worse, not better. So always, we should think logically about things, reasonably. How are we going to professionally deal with this? Even when it comes with narcissists, even when it comes with people who have done some serious things wrong, ruined people's lives. I've had my life ruined by many people. I know what it's like. But if it's not dealt with properly, and if we go from one extreme to the other, and it's not dealt with in a professional setting, the right way, following the official and established procedure of what we know works, then it's going to create more problems. It's not going to get better. As you can see this in politics, when we go from one extreme to the other, from left to right, right to left, it just breeds bitterness and resentment. It's the same thing when men once had all the power, and now women have a lot more power now, and it's all about feminism. It's just breeding resentment. But every time it's like, they felt oppressed before, whether it was men or women, right or left. And then they become more narcissistic and they start demanding more. And it's like someone at some point, we have to just agree to meet in the middle and find a balance. And that's how we solve all of the problems, is by working together. Realizing that you are just as important as I am, because we're all connected. So we are in this together. But this is the problem, that people don't want to see it that way because they believe that they're owed something. And I'm not saying that they're not owed something, they are. If you have been oppressed, if you have been victimized, yes, you're owed something for that. But, what people are owed, it should be reasonable. It should be equal to what they've actually lost and not more. Not feeding people's greed. Because that's what happens sometimes, if people have been deprived of something, and then they develop this greed, and now they want a lot more than what they actually lost. Unfortunately, that's what a lot of people are like. And even those who aren't that way, and they're very patient, like myself, then, you could be patient and forgiving, and you don't even get a fraction of what you've lost. And then you got narcissists, they expect interest for any time that they think they've wasted. But yeah, this is how it is, and it doesn't benefit anyone. Because even the people who are exploiting you, they're really just building a false identity off of you, off of everything that you're providing to them, and everything that you weren't prepared to lose. So we're just creating more and more fake people who aren't genuine, people who are just going to do the exact same thing the next time, thinking they're getting away with it. So none of this stuff leads to anything good. And I hate to get political about it, but this is how it is. And I myself, I'm not on either side. I'm more of a centralist. I do believe in balance. And I can see that there has been a lot of oppression on both sides, for women over the last few decades, and even men now, so many men these days, they don't even want to get married, they don't want to have children, or they're dealing with divorce, alimony, child support, and it's just ruined their lives. So I can see the issues on both sides, and we need to find a balance for people. But that's just it, there's narcissists on both sides. And you just got to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Don't ever let that happen to you, where you've been through something with someone. Don't ever let it make you narcissistic, where you then start trying to chase after more than what you've actually lost. And it's like no matter how far you get, you're still just never satisfied and you keep going. Don't let that happen to you. Because that's what's happened to these people, and just look at them. They're never going to be happy. Emily Agape says, imagine losing nearly all your hair and aging almost 20 years past your actual age. It's just a matter of 5 years from ages 24 to 29 as of July. And look nothing at all like you did just a few years prior. It's a horrible thing to go through. But you can get it back. You can get your youthful looks back by going no contact, focusing on yourself again, self-care, exercising, getting plenty of rest, improving your diets, drinking lots of water. And eventually you will begin to age backwards. It will happen. As it has for me, a few years ago, I looked much older. I looked around 40 years old when I was just 29. And now I'm 36. I don't think I look 36. And it's because, I've been living alone, traveling around. Wherever I see stress, trauma, I'm running away from it. And I think it's keeping me looking young. I haven't really got any wrinkles. I'm also using some anti-aging products. And I got a good clean diet. I drink lots of water. So, it's horrible what these people take from us. It really is. But we can get it back. We can, it's not too late. Just be careful though when you do get it back, because they're going to be coming right back as well. They see you when you glow up. They can see it, how you refresh yourself when you're not around them. And then they want to come back for that. Just remember what happened last time. Canadian math dude says, if you carry their shame, that makes them perfect. And that's really what you have to do. I mean, you know, that's what they expect from you. And what I call it is carrying the cross. Because that's really how it feels, you know. It's like a weight in your back. And you feel like you're carrying the cross for them. Or that they have to crucify you and you have to die for their sins. This is what it is. You know, it's narcissism. And we should be the ones who are glorified. It's like, how perfect are we if we can carry that? If one human can carry like another person's sins and their shame and make them feel perfect. You know, where is that feeling of perfection coming from? Us. We're making them feel that way. It's crazy. You know, of course we're not perfect, but in comparison to a narcissist, we are practically like the image of perfection compared to them. In contrast, that's really what we are. When you think about just how damaged, how disordered they are. And that's how for us, you know, when we get involved with them, by the end of it, we're unrecognizable. Because we were that great before. That's how. And then you realize it. You know, when you look back and you see the person that you were before, it's like you were like the image of perfection in every aspect of life before they got around you. That's how it goes. And you had to carry the cross for them. You had to die for their sins so that they could feel perfect. Pretty much so that they could feel how you do just by you being your natural, real self. That's what it was. But they don't want you to realize your perfection, your greatness over them. They don't want you to be expressing that, dancing around, owning it. Because just you being you, just you being humble, just destroys them, crushes them. If you start owning it as well and recognizing it, celebrating it, really gonna bury them with that. This is why if you try to do that, they come back and they try and ruin it for you. Because just you not even being aware of how great you are just destroys them. And of course, you know, their fragile ego is very important to them to defend against their shame. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end this video. A bit of empowerment for you. Letting you know just how great you are. And, you know, this is why this predator picked you out. You were a meal for them, a snack. Something nutritional. So don't let them put you down. They fed off you. But yeah, give it a thumbs up if it's been helpful for you. A bit of a longer video for you today. Those of you who miss my longer lives, I really enjoyed this one with you. Good to be back on cue. And it's good to see, you know, that even in this day and age, with all of these creators on here and all of the different platforms talking about narcissists, all the algorithms, it's good to see that I can maintain between 70 and over 100 live viewers for an 80-minute video. And of course, I do appreciate the support. And yeah, comment down below. Let's start a discussion together. I read your comments every day. If you're new here, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Got lots more content for you. And if you need more support, book a one-on-one. Go to narcsurvivor.co.uk. And it's also narcsurvivor.co.uk for my Instagram as well. New travel content on there every day. And the Facebook group is called Narc Survivor. And also on the website, I've got new blogs on there every day as well. Every day I'm writing up a new blog. And lots of good imagery on there. So definitely go to the website, check out the blog section. But yeah, thank you all for joining me on another live video. I appreciate the support. Apologies for the noise outside, out of my control. Always get these people coming around in their cars and make as much noise as possible. But yeah, thank you. And I'll speak to you in another one very soon.